What's going on, family? This is Scrapbook Boxing, Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. I want to continue to examine 100 years of World Championship fights. July 1st, 1935, Lou Ambers defeats Fritzi Zivic at the Hickory Park in Melville. And the very next morning, Ambers was taken to the hospital where his broken jaw was reset and wired. And although he would defeat Fritzi Zivic, but it goes to show how crafty Fritzi Zivic was, that Lou Ambers would have to have his jaw wired and reset. Now, Zivic was 22 years old. He stood 5'10". He had a 71-inch reach, and he had a fighting career record coming into that fight of 33 wins. 6 losses, 4 draws, and 18 knockouts. As for Lou Ambers, he was 21 years old. Stood 5'4" inches. He had a 70-inch reach. Had a fighting career record coming into that bout of 45 wins. 2 losses, 5 draws, and 15 knockouts. He would lose August 17th, 1938 to Henry Armstrong, but he would pick that bout back up. August 22nd, 1939. May 7th, 1937. Lou Ambers would defeat Tony Canzoneri for the World Lightweight Championship belt. He would carry it until May 10th of 1940, but he would finally lose that belt for the final time to Lou Jenkins. He was 26 years old. He was a 2-time lightweight champion. His name was Luigi D'Ambrosio. He was born November 8th, 1913 in Hickory, New York. He died April 25th, 1995. He was 81 years of age at the time of his death, and they would call him the Hickory Hurricane for a specific reason. He stood 5'4.5" inches. He was a lightweight and had a 70-inch reach. I had the pleasure of meeting Lou Ambers. Fought from 1932 to 1941. Had total bouts in his career of 104 fights. 89 wins, 28 knockouts, 8 losses, and he was stopped twice. He was in the ring with fighters such as Pedro Martinez and Jimmy Vaughn, Johnny Jadek, and of course Fritzi Zivic. But he would also face fighters such as Buster Brown. I gotta tell you, Lou Ambers was something else. Frankie Wallace, Coco Kid, Paul Jr., Joey Silver. Amazing. As for Fritzi Zivic, what can I say about him? Had a total bout career of 234 fights. He won 159 and had 65 losses. Was born May 8th, 1913 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Was elected into the Hall of Fame in 1972. He died May 17th, 1984. He was 71 years of age at the time of his death. And he would reside in Lawrence, Pennsylvania. I had the pleasure of meeting Fritzi Zivic. He stood 5'10" inches. He was a welterweight and fought from 1931 to 1949. October 4th, 1940 to July 29th, 1941. He would defeat the great Henry Armstrong. And what was remarkable about that card was that Ray Robinson would make his professional debut. October 4th, 1940. July 29th, 1941, he would stop Armstrong. And that was an upset in the making. As a matter of fact, it encouraged Ray Robinson to want to get a title of his own and revenge his idol, Henry Armstrong's loss to Fritzi Zivic. Now, Zivic was in the ring with fighters such as Henry Armstrong, Ray Robinson, Charlie Burley 3 times, Kid Azteca, one of the greatest Mexican fighters of all time, Izzy Genazzo. Incredible. He'd also be in the ring with fighters such as Billy Conn and Johnny Jadek, Al Bummy Davis, and Sammy Ingot, Freddie Red Clark Crane, Jimmy Leto, Jake LaMotta, Bo Jack, Lou Jenkins, Eddie Booker, Lou Ambers, Young Gene Buffalo. Phenomenal fighter Fritzi Zivic was. Now, Zivic had a father. His name was Joseph Zivic. Born 1899. And his mother, name was Mary Kepi. He had brothers, Eddie Zivic, Joe Zivic, Pete Jack, and himself, Fritzi, of course. And we call Fritzi Zivic the GOAT Kermit. Pete and Jack left their jobs to work at the age of 19 to try for the Olympic team. And they would own a Doberman pension in their home. The only one on the block to do so. Very interesting family was the Zivic brothers. But Fritzi Zivic, although he would have 65 losses, he would fight some of the greatest fighters of his time. So Fritzi Zivic would face Lou Ambers on the night of July 1st, 1935. By the way, that Ambers and Zivic fight for the lightweight championship belt. July 7th, 1935, Max Melling defeats Paulino Uskadons, 12 rounds, in Berlin, Germany. 40,000 screaming spectators cheered their hometown hero. And Uskadon's face was cut to ribbons. It was a bloody mess. Caused a 5'10" Spain heavyweight to fight blind the remainder of the rounds. The referee, Arthur Donovan, would raise the hand of Max Melling. Uskadon stood 5'10". He weighed 192 pounds. Had a fighting career record coming into that fight of 49 wins, 15 losses, 3 draws, and 33 knockouts. He was 36 years of age when he would face Max Melling, who was 29, by the way. And he stood 6'1". Weighed 187 pounds. Had a 76-inch reach. And he would win 47 fights coming into that fight. 7 losses, 4 draws, and 33 knockouts himself. Max Melling, Paulino Uskadon, would get it on July 7th, 1935. Now, Smelly had earned $36,250. Uskadon had earned $36,250. It was for a milk fund. And Escobar would only receive 10% of his purse. Didn't understand business. It was brought here to be taken advantage of. But Escobar would be in the ring with the famous Joe Louis. And that's when Max Melling would come out with the classic line, "I sees something." Because he noticed Joe Louis was dropping his hands when he fought Paulino Escobar. August 7th, 1935, Detroit's heavyweight sensation, Joe Louis, knocks out King Levensky in 1 round. It was in Comiskey Park in Chicago. Joe Louis was 21 years old. He stood 6'1.5" and he weighed 198 pounds. He had a 76-inch reach and walked into that ring with a fighting career record of 20 wins and 16 knockouts. As for King Levensky, he was 24 years old. He stood 5'11", weighed 198 pounds. He had a 74-inch reach, and he came into the ring with a fighting career record of 65 wins, 25 losses, and 36 knockouts. Now, the referee was Norm McCarthy. He raised the hand of Joe Louis after a first-round destruction. 2 minutes and 21 seconds. 40,000 fans came to see Joe Louis, the Detroit power puncher they all heard about. Levensky pleaded, "Don't let him hit me or hurt me anymore," with his white crispy lips. Amazing. His hands were shaking in fear because he didn't want Joe Louis to hit him anymore. That's the effect that Joe Louis would have, as Mike Tyson would have, as Sonny Liston would have, as George Foreman would have with his opponents.
But now that the gong has sounded and the mighty Kingfish takes his stance in the center of the ring, you can see that even then the word was out. This guy Louis is a killer. Stay away, stay away. Levensky is scared to death. Never tossing an effective blow, the big Palooka's down and bounces back, paralyzed with fright. What Louis did to him that night, and to a long line of those who faced him in the years to come, we can hardly blame him. Louis tied him up, hammered him with rights and lefts to the head, body. The outcome is as plain as the nose on poor Levensky's face. Clouded, hammered to the canvas with all the force that the colored boys command. Levensky's a battered soul who probably wishes he'd have stood in bed. For those who've seen the chain fight, this is but a harbinger of things to come. For Levensky, they come none too soon. Sitting on the ropes, he's had enough.
This scene reminds me of Mike Tyson and Bruce Seldon in Atlantic City. You have Kingfish Levensky to your left and Joe Louis to your right. And as you saw, he gave him a battering in one round. August 26, 1935, Lou Saliga, who was to your right, defeats Sixto Escobar, who's to your left. In a 15-round upset, surprising victor, New York's Dyckman Manhattan off of 200th Street in New York. It was called the Dyckman Oval. It was visited by 15,000 spectators. They all came to see the Coney Island Kid, Lou Saliga. And Puerto Rican, Sixto Escobar. Both men weighed 117.5 pounds. It was under the 118-pound bantamweight limit. Escobar met P. Sixto, 12 rounds, August 8, 1935. Both Escobar and Saliga were cut. They were cut and they were black and blue, and their face was swelled like a melon. Their body was covered with blood. They had red towels wrapped around their face and shoulders. The trainers held ice packs in swells. At that time, they had silver dollars to reduce the swelling of inflammation from the fighters' eyes, nose, and ears. Lou Saliga, his name was Luigi Saliga. He was born November 16, 1912 in Brooklyn, New York, and he died January 30th, 2002. He was 89 years of age at the time of his death. He would reside in Brooklyn. And he stood 5'4". He was a flyweight. Fought from 1931 to 1944. Had a total bout career of 91 fights. 62 wins, 13 knockouts, 17 losses, and 12 draws. Now, the thing with Lou Saliga, I had the pleasure of meeting him as well, was in the 1932 New York Golden Gloves, Metropolitan Championships, Los Angeles, California Olympic Games. It was a flyweight division, fought in the National AAU, Italian Americans Championship games. And Lou Salica was under the tutelage of Harry Wiley Sr. You hear me bring his name up many times, as you will in the future. Because Harry Wiley Sr. was the first black head coach in the Olympic Games. And he would be responsible for bringing back 5 medals, 2 gold, 3 silver. And then Lou Salica would bring back one of the silver medals. Henry Armstrong tried out for those games, came up short. And Lou Salica, being in the ring with fighters such as Richard Lamas, Manuel Ortiz, Small Montana, Midget Walgast, Bobby Pancho, who was one of 16 siblings. Janito Escobar was his father. Alida Vargas was his mother. Cisco Escobar was born March 23rd, 1913, Puerto Rico. Died November 17, 1979. He was 66 years of age at the time of his death, and he was trained by Ray Arcel and Waddy Bimstein. He stood 5 foot 4 inches. He was a bantamweight and had a total bout career: 68 fights, 43 wins, 19 knockouts, 22 losses, and 3 draws. And he was in the ring with fighters such as Baby Casanova, Carlos Indian Quintana, Joey Archibald, Harry Jeffrey, Eugene Hart, Lou Salica. In fact, June 26, 1934, he defeated Baby Casanova for the bantamweight NBA championship game. September 13, 1935, Filipino welterweight sensation and future middleweight star Seferino Garcia, who was to your right, be in the ring with Barney Ross. And he almost pulled up the first round knockout classic to become the welterweight champion of the world by having Barney Ross down in Chicago's stadium. But Barney Ross, as witty as he was, would come back and he would defeat Seferino Garcia. Now, who was Seferino Garcia? He was born August 26, 1906 in the Philippine Islands. He died January 1st, 1981, Los Angeles, California. I met Seferino Garcia. Fought from 1923 to 1945. Had a total bout career of 164 fights, 120 wins, 76 knockouts, and 30 losses. He had 14 draws and was stopped 6 times. Was in the ring with fighters such as young Peter Jackson, Kid Azteca, 2 back-to-back wins over Ignacio Fernandez, Freddie Steele and young Corbett III, King Tut, Bounty Ross, and Henry Armstrong, Ken Overland. He was in the ring with Fred Apostoli, Alan Matthews, Steve Belois, Manton Christoforis, California Jackie Wilson and Izzy Genazzo, Bobby Pancho, Lloyd Marshall, Billy Seuss, Frankie Blair, Phil Furr, Leon Zarita. Fabulous fighter was Seferino Garcia. And that fight took place September 13th, 1935 for the welterweight championship of the world. Speaking of Seferino Garcia for one moment, 1938, Garcia would face Henry Armstrong. He was ranked number 1. Number 2, you had Fritzi Zivic. And number 3, you had Charlie Burley. And as the series goes on, we'll learn more about that sequence. We'll learn more about Charlie Burley. We'll learn more about the fights between Henry Armstrong and Severino Garcia. But September 13th, 1935, Barney Ross would defend his welterweight championship belt against Severino Garcia. September 16th, 1935, Small Montana defeats Midget Walgast, 10 rounds, Oakland, California. And he would become the New York recognition of flyweight championship. Referee was Frankie Van der Ward's Small Montana with a victory. Walgast would suffer a bad cut over his left eye. What happened in the 8th round? It was $8,000 gate. Montana was 22 years old, weighed 109 pounds, stood 5 foot 4 inches. Walked into the ring with a fighting career record of 59 wins, 4 losses, and 8 knockouts. Midget Walgast was 25 years old. Stepped on the scales weighing 112 pounds. Stood 5 foot 3.5 inches. He was a flyweight. Weighed 150. He won 150 fights. 18 losses and 15 knockouts. Now, who was Small Montana? His name was Benjamin Gann. He was born February 24th, 1913 in the Philippines. He died August 4th, 1976. He was 63 years of age at the time of his death, and he would reside in the Philippine Islands. Stood 5 foot 4 inches. He was a flyweight and fought from 1930 to 1941. He had a total bout career of 114 fights, 81 wins, 22 losses, and 11 knockouts. September 16th, 1935, he would win a New York SAC flyweight championship belt from Midget Walgast. July 3rd, 1936, the U.S. Hawaiian State flyweight and bantamweight championship match. January 19th, 1937, NBA flyweight from Benny Lynch. Small Montana, very underrated Filipino fighter. He's actually very strong for his size. He would defeat Midget Walgast on the night of September 16th, 1935. He would earn recognition, flyweight championship portion, New York State recognition, flyweight championship of the world. September 19th, 1935, Eddie Babe Briscoe defeats Teddy Yaros, 15 rounds in Boston, to win the NBA New York recognition as middleweight champion. New York SAC middleweight champion. Teddy Yaros was dropped 12 times, 1 round, 6 in the 7th. He was only given the first round in the eyes of the judges. Eddie Babe Briscoe, his name was Henry L. Pulaski. Died July 14th, 1911, Syracuse, New York. He was born July 14th, 1911. He died March 7th, 1957 in Syracuse, New York. He was 45 years old at the time of his death. Eddie Babe Briscoe stood 5 foot 10 inches. He was a middleweight champion with a 7.5 inch reach. He had a total bout career of 103 fights, 65 wins, 12 knockouts, 26 losses, and 12 draws. 72.5 inch reach was the arm length of Eddie Babe Briscoe. I just wanted to show you Eddie Babe Briscoe. he would become champion. September 19th, 1935, with a victory over Teddy Yours. September 24th, 1935, Joe Louis drops Max Baer 3 times and stops him with a triple left hook in the 4th round. New York's Yankee Stadium. One of the greatest triple left hook combinations outside of Ray Robinson ever seen in boxing. The young sensation was picking off former heavyweights before he would run into Max Schmeling the following year. Max Baer, Joe Louis, would be some fight, because Joe Louis would become a newlywed when he married Marva Estrada earlier that afternoon. Quite a victory between Joe Louis and Max Baer.
6 feet 2.5 inches tall.
Now I want to show this fight once again between Max Baer and Joe Louis.
Scheduled for 15 rounds, of course, and a war has ensued here between these two men.
Now the test with Joe Louis came right now.
Joe Louis,
when he was under fire,
on the inside there, having ridden the storm,
he punched right back with Max Baer, and that surprised Max Baer and it surprised the audience. They didn't think that would happen.
To try and assuage these punches.
And this is why Max Baer is now on a defense, because he understands the young lion, Joe Louis, ground bomber,
Louis only a half
will not be denied.
But looks so much smaller as the bell ends the first round. Heavyweight champion, Max Baer. Baer from
Joe Louis goes right to Max Baer. This is what he did not do in the fight with Max Schmeling in 1936. Beautiful jabs.
Again, that lovely left hand from Joe Louis.
He's well prepared for this fight.
Of course, known as the brown bomb.
Baer cannot match jabs with Joe Louis, although he has a longer arm reach. But the timing of Joe Louis is much sharper, much crisp.
Baer is having is he's presenting
Max
quite
Baer.
a lot of the target to Joe Louis most of the time. Right shoulder's quite far forward.
Max Baer was never a polished boxer. He had a deadly right hand that he relied on to knock his man out. History repeats itself decade after decade.
Is quite far forward, simply because Baer
when Max Baer found himself in trouble,
it's got less distance to travel.
the only thing he can use is courage to try to deter and discourage the younger fighter.
Joe Louis just closes down the gap with a minimum of effort.
But in this case for Joe Louis, that wasn't enough.
Supreme fighting machine.
Oh, beautiful punches by Joe Louis.
You may remember that Max Baer won the title with a 10th round stoppage of Max Schmeling. Then lost at his first defense.
Beautiful hook off the jab by Joe Louis.
There's a cracking finish to round 2. Round 3 we go. So Joe Louis comes out of the corner, goes over versus the Baer corner, gets on with his work. See now all the height advantages that Max Baer may have had is nullifying by crouching down like this. Joe Louis really wasn't not unknown for him to put the heel of his glove up to the nose of his opponent, rub the heel of the glove inside their face.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful parry. Stick right hand from Joe Louis. Good work on the inside. Very nice, very nice. Joe Louis will learn later on in his career he has to keep his left hand up. Beautiful jab. Very important weapon in boxing is your jab. Oh, beautiful.
Now not having a for greater success in round 3. Louis once again being able to pick him off at long range. Just the damaging punches come into play on the inside. Louis, absolute calmness personified here.
See, Joe Louis would throw 2 hands.
Under an onslaught of punches.
He used both hands when he fought. Oh, beautiful right hand.
Slow motion.
And that's what's missing today.
We are in round 3. Baer does beat the count.
Look at his triple left hook.
Once again, back on the attack here.
Oh my God. Beautiful combination that was.
Baer on the floor again. So a bit of replay here then. Slow motion replay. Maxi Baer under severe pressure here from Joe Louis' left hook particularly.
Gets underneath the right.
The top, landed awkwardly.
Those are right. A double right hand. That's what puts him down.
So the first visit to the canvas then for Max Baer.
Referee Arthur Donovan picks up the count.
So Baer gamely rises to beat the referee's count, but only to find Joe Louis in a very aggressive
Now Louis goes right to him.
Tore in to Baer, unloaded the left hook, 3, 4, 5 of them on target.
Beautiful left hook. He's going to throw a right uppercut. Left hook combination. Misses that one and triples it up.